The felon's dementia on full display in South Korea? Let's look into that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who is subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting on the videos, sharing the videos, watching them all the way to the end. These are the things that have really made the channel grow, and for that I am sincerely thankful. Okay, so the felon wandered off the other day on his Asia trip. Looked like he didn't know where he was. Then we had the Air Force One interview where he talks about getting an MRI. And it was the most perfect MRI, of course, that's ever been given. I went back, actually watched the video of the Air Force One comment. Um, he also talked about taking the cognitive test again. And then so I'm recording this early in the morning on Thursday, and I'll release it later this morning. Um, he also tweeted out South CAREDDDDDD, something along those lines, which I get. We can all make typos. I make typos. It's an odd typo. Uh, Gavin Newsom responded quickly with saying the extra D's stand for dementia, which is funny, but also sad because it's true, but not that sad because of who we're talking about. Ah, and the Lincoln Project tweeted out perfect MRI, which was a great response to that as well. So I don't keep up with Twitter very well, by the way. I'm not on it at all. And I barely keep up on Blue Sky anymore as well, just because it's social media's you know, it has its place. I use it when appropriate. But I think like a lot of you have been saying, we're exhausted. We're exhausted. So the questions I want to ask are fairly straightforward. Uh, is the felon having these mini strokes in South Korea? We saw the drooping face a few weeks ago. Um, he wandered off, then he did this weird tweet with the D button press. I don't even know how you would do that on a phone. Um, and then is this a big turning point? And is the media finally going to start covering his health conditions? And then the other two things that are unrelated, because not everything is about the felon. Um, I've seen a number of YouTube videos of interviews with um, MAGA aligned Trump voters, felon voters, uh, realizing that they're actually on the Affordable Care Act, which is the premiums that want to go up. And as somebody who pays for somebody on the Affordable Care Act, I can tell you it is not cheap to start with. And especially if you, um, because of racist reasons in our case, don't qualify for any government subsidies, it's very expensive. Um, so let's um let's look and see, is this a turning point for MAGA here? And also with respect to the SNAP benefits that some of them are starting to realize that they rely on as well. A very underreported story is there's a lawsuit going on in New York over the congressional map, in particular one congressional district inside of New York City that is gerrymandered heavily Republican, which is a hard thing to do in New York City. Uh, will that lawsuit succeed and get rid of that district, creating another seat for the Democrats? It looks like Virginia's moving ahead, just like we saw. So we'll see how the election results go on Tuesday. So let's start with the New York uh, lawsuit. Will New York be forced to redraw its map? This could open it up, by the way, for New York to redraw the whole map. This could be more than just one seat. It's got the potential. But the lawsuit needs to be successful inside the New York Supreme Court. So will New York be forced to redraw their map by the courts? Because of their independent commission and the way constitutional changes have to happen, they're not going to be able to redraw their maps till earliest till 2028. It looks like Ohio's not going to be as bad for Democrats as feared. In fact, it might turn out to be just fine. I think so, Justice. That's a great card to pull to start with. Putting things right, along with the Strength card. This is a great combination. This very subtle, quiet means of going about this. Choices will have to be made on how it's done. You get the Tower card. So, the New York Supreme Court was kind of responsible for the map that already exists anyhow. So it's an odd thing that no, not exactly. We have death at the center. I like that the end of the dark cycle, uh, endings and beginnings, the end of the current map, the beginning of something new. The Six of Cups, really planning for the future here, and the Four of Cups. Um, they're going to be handed something that they're going to have to deal with that they probably don't want to, but that's their job. Partnerships, this is the law firms that are partnering to sue here. And then we get Temperance, which ironically is the card after death. It's a nice progression here. So Justice is 11, not 12, but we go from 11 to 13 to 14. So this is progress. So we're going to get justice here. The map will get redrawn. The question is kind of when, I think. And, that will open up the door for something a little bit more moderate. Um, Now you might say, well, what's moderate? Well, in a state that normally votes, 60-40, you know, with what's New York got 25 House seats, 26 House seats, something like that. A 26 split would be about right. Something maybe even more extreme. If Republicans were doing it, the New York Supreme Court's not going to like taking this case, but they're going to be forced to, and they're going to have to make some choices on how they handle the redraw, whether they do it themselves, whether they put it in the hands of the legislature, for example. Uh, this quiet approach is what's going to work to tear down the map. The partnership is the law firm, and they're looking towards the future here. So this is a highly underreported story. The spy in the camp. It's like actually that single district inside New York City feels like the Page of Swords there. Judgment will be drawn on it, and then uh, they'll have to rework the map with the Eight of Pentacles. So I like that. I think that's some good energy there. So um, hopefully this can all get accomplished before the new year so that this can all be done. Okay, so MAGA is finally realizing that they're on SNAP and on the Affordable Care Act. Some states are going to pay out SNAP benefits, some states won't. There's lawsuits there. I don't think it's fully determined whether the November SNAP benefits will be paid out. I think it's probably pretty close, fair to say that unless you're in one of the Democratic states that are going to make up the difference, it's not going to be on time. But I do think the courts will move rather quickly on this. I do think SNAP benefits eventually get paid out. Um, I don't know if we have to wait till the government reopens. I don't think so. I think the courts will force it because the money's there. So is this forcing MAGAs and Republicans to rethink. Because even if you yourself are not on SNAP or use the Affordable Care Act, which is the only way, by the way, to buy health insurance for people with pre-existing conditions that are a little bit older. There's no other choice, right? You have to buy it off the exchange. Um, Otherwise, it's even more expensive, and it's crazy expensive. Um, the message coming forward about money, and I think the message here is that the Republicans just don't care. The Two of Pentacles, I think everybody knows deep down they could juggle the money, find it, make it work, right? They're managing to pay Social Security and stuff like that. There's ways. Um, the Queen of Swords. This is just kind of par for the course for Republicans. It just is. You know, this the cult is slowly coming down. It really does feel like a turning point, which is why I want to ask that question here in a bit. It feels like the facade of they care about you is clearly not true. It's coming down. We get the spy in the camp. I think they're realizing that they elected people that don't actually care about them. The deceit and the deception, the Seven of Swords, not surprised at all to see that card. Circles of support, Democratic governors fulfilling SNAP obligations is going to win over voters. That's what it's going to do. So, to whether they can fulfill them the whole way, that's a different story. The voters are paying attention, the Four of Wands, and this is, yeah, just complete and utter downfall of the Ten of Swords for Republicans. So people are hearing the message about the money. They realize that their government is working against them, and they're ready to replace them. Now, of course, there's the 30% that are, part of the cult that will be part of the cult until, um, you know, probably their last breath. But there are the other, 10% that's, if you really think about it, they might vote against Republicans to send a message, right? Now, I don't think Republicans are winning any elections 70-30 on a national scale. That just doesn't happen. Anybody that thinks a Democrat can win more than 55% of the vote on a national level is just wrong. And anybody that thinks that a Republican can win more than like 50%, I think is probably wrong on a national level. There's circles of support here uh, to go against the government and return things back to a logical form. They know that the government's juggling money to tear down the White House, for example. They're juggling money for the felon's trip to Asia. They're juggling money to pay the senators and the House delegations, pay the people that hold treasury bonds, right? Pay Social Security. They could find the money to pay what little, because it's not a ton of money that goes to SNAP, right? It sounds like a large sum, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot. Um, so I think, this cycle gets put to the end by who? By the voters. What are they ending? The corruption, the Seven of Swords. So I think this is, yeah, they're going to send a message. I think we'll hear part of it on Tuesday. And Republicans are really gambling, but their fate's kind of already set with the Three of Wands here. So, they already made their choice. Their fidelity is not to improve people's lives. It just isn't. Hasn't been for a long time, not in my lifetime. Um, with a few exceptions, like George W. Bush's PEPFAR program, AIDS medicines to Africa, for example. That was a good Republican program. So not everything Republicans have done in the past is bad, but we have to remember that's also 20 years ago. So, and that's the only thing I can think of in the last 20 years. I don't know. Can't think of anything else that strikes me. Okay. Is the media finally going to report on this? I don't want to use that deck for this question. I want to use this deck. Somebody asked me, how do I know which deck to use? It's a feel. Just I reach for the deck that feels right. Okay, is the media finally going to start reporting on his health problems? Like, and not like I mean investigative journalism here, not just he went to the doctor. There's some good, you know, YouTube channels out there that look into this stuff a little bit informed, but of course, they don't have the same budgets that the broadcast media has. In fact, most of them probably don't have any budgets. Just doing their own research from a computer. Um, one of our members shared with me AI's prediction of somebody with Trump's conditions, life expectancy, and it's not good. Um, and then, so thank you to you know who you are. Thank you for sharing that with me. And then I typed in, what if he's having these TIA, these transient ischemia strokes? What that does to his life expectancy. So with everything that we kind of know, you know, AI says it'd be unlikely that he lives more than like 3 years. But if you add in the TIAs, it's like unlikely he would live more than like between 6 months and a year. And his chances of making it a full year, they put at less than 50%. Um, which is interesting. Not that AI is always right. Um, we get the Four of Cups. I think they want to report on it, but they're scared to you. That's no excuse whatsoever. I am on a firm boycott of CNN. I don't even go to their website anymore. Um, because they're starting to make excuses. I think they're realizing that Democrats aren't watching them, so therefore they're going to try to go right wing, and they're well, whatever. The tennis cycles, the tennis swords, the tennis cycles. The cycle is going to come to an end, and we get the Wheel of Fortune, which is also a 10. Things are going to take a turn. Another 10, the 10 of Wands. So lots of endings here. I think the media is going to start reporting on things. Yeah, we get a new beginning here, the Fool. I've seen this coming for a while, and it's basically played out the way I thought it would. So, the Queen of Wands, discernment, they are concerned about lawsuits, which that's no excuse. But I think we are going to move out of the trouble with the Six of Swords, and we get wish fulfillment, the Nine of Cups, and everything we need with the Nine of Pentacles. These are actually a really good cards. So yeah, the media is kind of sluggish right now, but there's going to be this new beginning, and we're going to start getting the information that we need. Maybe not everything we want, but at least what we need. They're ready to start moving to this new beginning. Uh, but they're, unfortunately, it's like everything else. It's about money, right? So, but I think the wish gets fulfilled. They pick up the burdens, which ends the dark cycle of them basically ignoring it, and start reporting with some discernment and some really thoughtful care rather than just really reporting absolutely nothing and then charging you to read it on CNN for that matter. The Knight of Wands here, celebrations, full illumination, logic and consistency. The King of Cups or King of Swords, I'm sorry. Uh, yeah, I think that's the way that's gonna go. Okay, so I want to ask about the felon in South Korea. This tweet, which I don't make that much of it. maybe it's a sign something went wrong. But the wandering off, that I make a bigger deal. The not being able to complete sentences, the interview on Air Force One, really bizarre. These are the big things that I said was going to happen this week, along with Hurricane Melissa and Israel bombing Gaza. Kind of was a combination of all those things. Okay. Show us the felon in South Korea. Just see how it was checking in. Just the general overview, the felon in South Korea. I don't even know what to say when I pull this card, the first card out of the deck. Death. Does that mean he's gonna die in South Korea? I don't necessarily think so. I mean, it could. It wouldn't surprise me. Uh, but I think what it really means is that death is front and center. That's why we keep pulling the death card, the Three of Swords, the Ten of Swords, these type of energies that are just not good energies to have around you, especially when you're talking about health. The Page of Swords, a spy in the camp. We we might learn more about what actually happened there. Um, well, and speak of the Ten of Swords, there you go. There it is, complete and utter downfall. Uh, Defending oneself, the Seven of Wands. It's a gamble. It really is a gamble, the Wheel of Fortune. He probably should not be flying long distances. That would be my guess. He also mentioned in this thing that they have doctors on board, not just a doctor, but doctors, which I don't know what's protocol and what's not. I would think having one or two doctors is probably okay. If it's six or seven, that's a little bit overkill. So there's something wrong there. We get the Two of Cups with, of course, it's got the health kind of symbol above it, partnerships, and the Tower card. This is very similar to the reading we did a few days ago. The energies. In fact, I think that was on about his trip on Asia. It's very similar. The Hierophant, his higher self, spirituality, the church, the Pope, the court, all these things are on his mind. And the Sun card, full illumination. Death is near. It's a gamble. Every day's a 50, well, maybe not a 50-50 proposition, but every day is a day that it could be. And uh, we're going to learn how bad his health was eventually with the Sun card there. I mean, his health's getting worse and worse by the day. And, it's just a matter of time before, you know, his downfall, being a physical one in this case. I think there are some people on this trip that might tell us some scary things that he did. Oh, he also talked about testing nuclear weapons. I don't think that that's gonna happen, by the way. Um, I'll read on that tomorrow, but I don't think that's gonna happen. Um, they're constantly defending themselves. He's, reliving a lot of things. He's trying to boost himself up by putting others down like he always does, saying Jasmine Crockett and AOC couldn't pass a cognitive test the way he could. It's like they're not hard. You're supposed to be able to pass them, even if you can't read, right? They're designed for just to test for dementia. Uh, you could be illiterate, and that's not the point of them, right? Um, yeah, not good cards, that's for sure. Some blind choices, messages coming out about his health. And I don't think it's too long before Judgment Day. I really don't. And I think that's like kind of the karmic justice is kind of the way it all happens. And, how we all learn how bad his dementia was, which is scary, but I think we're protected. We pull the star card a lot, so I think we're okay there. But um, I think this would to him be kind of a karmic justice because he would read more into it. So let's just ask: is this are we at this turning point here? I mean, it feels like it to me. The energy shifted. It felt like it shifted with the last new moon in particular. Um, we got a full moon coming up on, I think, the day after the election, November 5th. The big turning point. What do we need to know about that? Is this a big turning point? It sure feels like it. Energies can get muddled, that's for sure. Um, things can feel one way and actually be a different way at times. And we are getting close to a Mercury retrograde as well. So, there's some communication issues that we're going to be having. Um, yeah, they're just on the defense. That's the big change. You know, they're losing in court. The court ruling that they won about the National Guard in Portland is going to an en blanc hearing, which is unheard of. They're going to lose that. Um, not everything goes against them, but they're definitely on the defense. There's a lot of support for change here. And we get the strength card. And of course, the question is this a turning point? And I think the answer is yes. And I think it's going to be a rather strong one. Yeah, I mean, we get the Two of Wands. It's a big crossroads type energy. Does that mean everything gets better tomorrow? Of course not. Doesn't mean that at all. It means we've turned the corner. Um, and I would think about the energies as we turn the corner as like going down a mountain. We've been climbing the mountain, it's been painful, and now we're going down the mountain, but there's always these other little ways as we go down, right? So there's going to be bumps in the road. It's not going to be a smooth transit. It's a very volatile time, which it has to be a turning point. Turning points aren't smooth. The Sun card, these are good cards. Full illumination. The Six of Pentacles, giving and receiving of information, things of value, things going on behind the scenes that we can't see. The High Priestess and complete and utter downfall, which is again about this administration. So they're defending themselves. It's very volatile. Ultimately, they do not win, whatever win means. People are taking in information and distributing it, which is not good for them because the truth isn't good for them. That's why he's so volatile. But ultimately, we end up stronger on the other side. So it'll be okay. There's a lot of support. People are ready to make the change. We're at this crossroads. There's people doing things behind the scenes, energy workers, for example, um, to ensure that there's a brighter future ahead, which there will be. Uh, it probably really turns when he goes with the Temperance card. Doesn't mean it's easy with the Ten of Wands. especially when he's still here, the King of Pentacles. But eventually, enough people get the message and start making the change happen. And if the government shutdown lasts too long, there's going to be protests in the streets like we've never seen before. I don't think it'll last that long, but we'll take a look at that and for Friday's video, along with his claim that we're going to start testing nuclear weapons, which is clearly forbidden by a number of treaties. So, all right, as always, thank you for watching. I'll be back with another video soon.